The opening morning of athletics competition, and the women's marathon will kick us off here. 42.195 kilometres. It's an overcast day. Steve Monaghetti, who joins us, a bronze, a silver, a gold in the marathon. No better man to talk about this event, the men's and women's race on this morning, and what a sight it is. Almost perfect conditions for a marathon, Mona. It's probably 17 or 18 degrees at the moment, and no sunshine, but a slight threat of rain perhaps. But fantastic conditions. Yeah,
I thought it was ideal conditions. I'm now getting concerned it might sort of blow up a little bit, but you wouldn't be complaining. Obviously, it's not too hot, and that's the main issues of the heat, and then a bit of wind, but we haven't got either of those at the moment, so pretty much ideal. So looking forward to what will be a very exciting and very competitive women's marathon, I might say, Dave.
It's captured the imagination of the public, the marathon at the Commonwealth Games, wherever it's held. And of course, in 1982, Rob de Castella was the main man, and Jim Peters was one of the most famous moments in the marathon when he staggered across the line. And in the early days of the event, and set to, if the triathlon is any indication yesterday, there'll be massive crowds out in the course, and it's a tourist route, isn't it? It's probably not the fastest course. If you're going to design a course to set a personal best, it's not this one, but it's certainly one that will take in all the major landmarks of Melbourne and give the fans a real opportunity to get up close and personal with the runners.
A very good way of seeing, good easy way to do a tour of the city, as we might say. But there we see the, I mean, the humidities, the air temperatures, that's unbelievable. 14 degrees at the start of a Commonwealth Games marathon that would be the coolest I've seen in many a Commonwealth Games. So we're all very happy about that. With the humidity's obviously a little bit higher, and that might play a factor, but seriously, at the moment, you've got to say that's as good as it gets.
I reckon it was about 6 in Edinburgh, Mono, when you made your marathon debut. You ran the 10,000 metres and decided that you should embark on a marathon career.
Yeah, it was 20 years ago now, so it seems like ancient history. And I think we talk about Deke in 82, and you know, this is the next time we've had the Commonwealth Games back here in Melbourne. So it's a pretty special moment right now as these runners line up on the start.
Here is the course, and as we mentioned, it's a very scenic route. It goes up towards the Fitzroy Gardens, down Lygon Street, then back through the city, down St Kilda Road. We take a lap of Albert Park, and then through St Kilda onto Beaconsfield Parade. And this is where it does get interesting, around the 30k mark, because it goes along Alexander Parade up to the Shrine and back. They get very close to the MCG, but not quite close enough, and then they come back in and run up the footbridge from Federation Square, which is quite an incline. So it will be interesting to see how it pans. Quite hilly at the beginning, quite flat in the middle stages, and exposed along Beaconsfield Parade in St Kilda. So Nicole Stevenson is there. I don't think that's our swimming commentator. She's the Canadian who has good credentials here, and the 3 Australians, Kate Smyth, and they are joined by the defending champion Kerryn McCann and Lauren Shelley. Smyth and Shelley making their major championship debut for Australia. And Kerryn McCann, mother of 2, defending champion, second oldest Australian ever to run for Australia at the Commonwealth Games. The oldest was Heather Turland, Mona, who won in 1998. So it all points in the direction of Kerryn McCann.
It does, yeah. And she's obviously the most experienced athlete in this field. She's done it all. She's been to Olympics, World Championships, and she's back in great shape, you know, after she's had 2 children, Benny and Josie. So it's all looking, the race is prime for Kerryn. If she runs well, she'll win today. There's no doubt about that.
You're that confident?
Oh, yeah. She's a class above the athletes in this field, and really the race is in her hands, and you'd be hard pressed to see that she wouldn't start favourite.
Of course, the marathon, though, it doesn't really begin until you get past 30 or 35k in some cases, and the body on the day plays a massive role.
Yes, and we've got the other 2 Australians on steep improvement curves, so it looks exciting.
Just about ready for a start. They're anxious. They want to get on with it. They're underway. What a journey it will be. 23 starters from 13 countries, and the defending champion, Kerryn McCann, runs in the Australian colours. They do 3 laps of the stadium, which is unusual in itself for a major marathon. And for those that like a stat, 36.7 metres from the start to the finish line the first time around, and then 3 laps, and they'll go out onto the road. And when they come back into the stadium, they'll enter in what would be the forward pocket here, if it was set up for the Australian rules football.
Yeah, nothing much happening on the track, obviously. It actually gives the crowd a bit of a chance to have a look at the runners before they depart. But to be honest, I was always keen to get out of the stadium and get onto the road. You know, you don't really feel like it started till you've left the stadium. So, you know, I'd prefer that we didn't have as many, but the course is as it is, so we'll have a bit of a look at them. Don't want to be running out in lane 4, I wouldn't think just yet, but
no blue line here when we get out into the road, which is one of the hallmarks of major international marathon courses. So the runners will have to pick their course as best they can once they're out on the open road. Of course, all the roads are closed well and truly. It's caused, I wouldn't say mayhem, but certainly the city of Melbourne has changed with the public road events. And you know that a big event is in town, Steve, when you try and drive your car down the normal street and there's roadblocks everywhere. And it just means that the major championships is here. Oh, yeah,
and you'll never run on this course ever again because we're not closing Melbourne down like we have today. But this is a special race, and it obviously gives the community, the public, a chance to get up and close and personal with the athletes, which is one of the great advantages of the marathon, I think.
Australia's got a great record in the women's marathon at the Commonwealth Games. First race was held in 1986 in Edinburgh, and Lisa Martin won the first two. Lisa Ondiki in quality times too, 2:26.07 in 1986, and then in Auckland 2:25.25, which is the games record. Carol Willard from Canada won in front of her home crowd in 1994. And Steve Monaghetti disappointed the home fans in the men's race to take the gold medal. And in 1988, Heather Turlin, mother of 4, wrote herself into Australian sporting history by taking the gold medal in oppressive conditions. And then Kerryn McCann winning in 2002. The Australians have got a great record in both the men's and the women's race.
We might have trouble going better than Manchester. I'm not sure what we're going to do. We can have a triple dead heat is about as good as we can get after our 1, 2, 3 in Manchester. So, you know, we're on a hiding to nothing really, but I would expect that history form line's looking pretty good.
I know they've all been pretty anxious to get this started, the Australians, who've been everywhere really, up in Falls Creek, and I know Kate Smyth staying at home in Kew to just keep everything as normal as possible, and Kerryn back to Coaldale in New South Wales, where she lives with husband Greg and their 2 children. It's important, isn't it, Mono? I know that there's been a lot of talk about, you know, staying in the village and not staying in the village, and you are mayor of the village, so I'm sure you would have liked to welcome them into your temporary home, but so important in a race like this to have the perfect preparation.
Yeah, you want to build a home environment. In the marathon, we get very particular the last few days, so you want to make sure you've got everything on hand. And if you're a bit testy, you've got people around you who can settle that, but also go and get anything you need. You don't want to go anywhere, you don't want any bother. So, you know, you like to have a home environment. Interestingly, Kerryn and Kate were up at Falls Creek in the last few weeks training together. So. And they've come off altitude. In fact, Kate Smyth only came down from Falls Creek altitude, which is about 1,600 metres just a couple of days ago. She's sitting on the inside. All the girls are well placed, well positioned on the inside lane. So they're under instructions to don't run any further than you have to. So they're perfectly positioned at obviously very early stages of the race.
The marathon preparation has changed over the years, hasn't it? The carbo loading and depletion seems to have gone out of vogue, and you know, the runners are now tinkering with the altitude training, and there's been plenty of studies as to whether, you know, how many days you have to come back from the mountain to run, and but it still comes down to how the body goes after 35, 36, 37 and into even 40 Ks on occasions.
Yeah, near the end of the race, you know, I think the altitude makes you strong and gives you that extra oxygen to get through the early stages of the race, but the last 5K it probably doesn't matter where you've been. It's just training in your legs over many years, I think, by then. So getting a good look at the athletes here, and they're in a tight pack. Suggests that it's pretty casual pace early, I would think.
1:2:47 is going to be one to watch today. Lioudmila Kortchaguina from Canada, former Russian, gained Canadian citizenship in May 2005. Has lived there since 2001, and she's a good competitor on a 2:29.53 is her lifetime best as they leave the stadium. And what a thrill for them to hear the roar of the crowd. We'll greet them back probably around 2.5 hours will be the winning time, you would think. So around 2 hours and 25 minutes, something like that. It's always difficult to tell. They will be cautious in the first part of this race because as they leave the MCG, they have a few climbs. They go out to Brunton Avenue here. They swing around up towards the Fitzroy Gardens. There are quite a few climbs. Probably the hilliest part of the course in the early stages.
Oh, it is. The first 10K are the only hills on the course. There's a bridge, obviously, right near the finish, but the only significant hills are once they get from the first section, 10K through to Dockland. So, and it twists and turns. A beautiful section up through Carlton and around the Melbourne Uni district, shaded, which won't matter today, but they will. It certainly will just probably, you know, break the race up a little bit at least, and make sure that anyone who was just going to be along for the ride won't be there won't be getting a ride for too long.
So there's the Canadian 1-2-4-7, and that's Kortchaguina.
I think that certainly the main threat to the Australians in this race. A very good record, and obviously Canadian of Russian background, so strong, tough, will be well trained. Looks in pretty good shape too. Looks very focused.
Tall runner there, 14:09, is Liz Yelling from England. She's also got good credentials. Same coach as Paula Radcliffe, so that immediately puts her on the radar. Sister Hayley's also in the team, and 2:30.58 is her personal best. Yeah,
good family history, and so she obviously, with that background, you know, she'll be in good marathon shape as well. And yeah, good track, coming off good track performances, so you would expect she'd be certainly prominent in the first half of the race.
The Kenyans also, you need to be respectful of. Anyone that dons the red vest of Kenya in an international competition, Mona, you pay an utmost amount of respect to.
Yeah, and Hellen Cherono would be the Kenyan most likely to figure prominently. And yes, we're not going to be surprised if the Africans are there for a long time as well, because that's just part of world road racing now. And you know, they're in this event, they're probably going to be, I would think, teaming up a little bit and looking to break the race up through the middle stages.
For the two Tanzanians there also, May, a 2:41 athlete who made her debut in Las Vegas in December last year, and Sarah Major, who's a 2:40 athlete as well. So early stages of the women's marathon. The men's start not too far away. Welcome back to the women's marathon. Early stages just after 10 minutes, and the three Australians are in the lead group. In fact, most of the 23 starters are there. Kerryn McCann is a defending champion. She's got the sunglasses on. She's on the left-hand side of the screen. The other two Australians, Shelley, 29 years of age, lives in Esperance, coached by Jackie Fairweather, who was the bronze medalist in 2002. Jackie Gallagher, former world champion in the triathlon. And the third Australian, Kate Smyth, 23 years of age, originally from Orange, now based in Victoria. And she's been in good recent form, 2 personal bests in the lead-up. And what a moment for any athlete to make their debut in a Commonwealth Games or Olympic Games team. But to do it in front of your home crowd on your home course is just an experience to savour for a lifetime.
Oh, yes. And in the marathon, might I say, with our history, Lauren and Kate would be just so excited. And you know, I think we're all, if we're not aware, the women's marathon selection, we had a number of qualifiers, including Jackie Fairweather, might I say, and the selection was difficult. So they've really earned their spot, and they will be very determined to prove to people that they deserve to be here. They're both on steep improvement curves, so you know, I expect that they're both very solid, tough, honest runners, and I think we'll be surprised by the end of the day at their results. Especially, I think Kate Smyth's probably come off of really good preparation, now coached by the distance coordinator from Australia, Sean Crichton, himself a Commonwealth Games runner only 4 years ago back in Manchester. So both coaches are very experienced. Both coaches of Lauren and Kate Smyth ran in Manchester at the Commonwealth Games 4 years ago, which also helps because they get them into hey, this is a championship, this is a major event. Preparation-wise, they'll have been able to lead them in very nicely.
Well, Kate's supporters will be delighted because I've just cut 10 years off her age. I said she was 23, she's 33. So as we all get older, you'd like to go back in time sometimes, wouldn't you? And I've done that for Kate, but she's 33. And brother Stuart's come back from London, and huge support group down from Orange where she grew up, and she's been a member of just a clip of heels there. Kerryn McCann just clipping the heels of one of the Tanzanian runners, and that is Josephine Akunaay. do have to be careful in the early stages of the race, Mono, when the pace isn't on. And it's always, whenever you talk to the marathon runners, the first 5K, you have to be so conservative because you feel fantastic and you just want to get out there and start racing. But you can lose the race in the first 10K if you go out too hard.
And there will certainly be a suggestion. Historically, Commonwealth Games will be quite slow early, so no one wants to take the pace. You can see a big pack there. You want to be in the pack, being comfortable, get a carry, but you don't want to be at the front because obviously no winner will ever run from the gun to the finish in the marathon. So you try to be in the pack, on the heels, but not so close that you're actually forced to go to the front too often and for too long. So we can see them here, no one obviously wanting to take the initiative, spread across the road, just jogging, saying, well, I want to be up the front, but I don't really want to be pushing the pace here, so we'll just tick a few kilometres off. And yeah, very good. I see Lauren, Kate just sitting in the pack, very nonchalantly running along, making sure they're not wasting any energy in the early stages of the race.
Phidippides led from start to finish when the marathon began.
Right, well, yeah, he might be the last. He died at the end of it, so that's probably not a good role model to be looking for. A beautiful section of the course, might I say, in this early stages. They head up through Carlton, Lygon. I'm sure there'll be a few cappuccinos frothing as we speak as they head up through this lovely part of Melbourne. Good crowds out on the course already. I know there's a big contingent coming from a number of country areas here for Super Sunday, and what a way to start our athletics program on what I think is a feature event of track and field or athletics. So we're really happy that the marathon's on so prominently in the program, and I think will set us up for terrific results from the athletics team here in Melbourne.
Men's race starts in half an hour's time, and they'll be just undergoing their final preparations. Just take us through what the athletes would have been doing this morning, Mono. It's not a really early start by marathon standards. Sometimes we get them underway at 8 o'clock in the morning, but they would have been up early and just having a light bite to eat as they run to the back of the pace car that needs to start to move out of the way rapidly. That is the problem. It needs to, and now it's caught right in the middle, so you can see that well, it needs to stop and get out of the way, and get out of the way in a hurry.
And this is actually up through a beautiful part of the course, but obviously a part that cars would not often drive on, up to the Royal Exhibition Building's fountain, and they've got caught in a very narrow stream there. That's terrible, and luckily it's happening in such an early part of the race and won't affect the outcome, but that's a beautiful. There we see the pictures around the fountain, but that'll be a bad distraction to the girls.
Now, by the looks of things, and fortunately this early in the race, when, you know, if you are going to be halted, this is the time when it's probably not too bad, but certainly an inconvenience that they could do without. The exhibition buildings, it was the venue for weightlifting and boxing in the 1956 Olympic Games, and was the site of the first federal parliament in 1901, and heritage listed in 2004. It's a famous landmark in Melbourne. Nearly 17 minutes into the women's marathon. Early stages, stay with us. You're watching the Commonwealth Games on Nine's Wide World of Sports. Welcome back to the marathon. We've just gone through the 5 kilometre mark, and the opening split was 18:50, which is a pretty pedestrian pace, Steve.
Yes, that's I suppose it's to be expected, as I say, early on, and you can tell because they're packed, they're spread across the road, no initiative, no one wanting to lead. It's early stages yet, so, and it is in that section of the course that's probably a bit hillier and a bit twistier, so yeah, they'll be just rolling along, getting into their work now, and I think they will have seen that 5K split. They will have converted in their heads where they're up to, and I wouldn't be surprised if they just click along a little bit now, just to make sure that they keep the pace rolling.
Just gone down through Lygon Street and into Swanston Street, main strip in Melbourne, around the University of Melbourne, and the Melbourne Cemetery coming up shortly. And there's big crowds out on the course already, Steve, it is a boost, isn't it, when you see the people out on the course cheering for you, and the other runners will get a boost from that as well. It's not just the Australians that feed off the excitement of the crowd, although you do have this early in the race.
Yeah, no doubt it'll be good support for the Australians, but everyone likes to have a crowd around, and in fact, in this instance, it will make it feel like a city marathon, which will make them all feel more comfortable having that amount of crowds around it. It does have a city marathon feel to it, might I say, in this instance, because you've got good crowds out. It's barricaded really well. It's not a loop circuit, you know, it's around the city, a lot of buildings around through and beside parkland, so they'll feel quite at home here. I expect it'll be a very natural feel for them this stage of the race.
So Kortchaguina it is from Canada that's been up the front for most of the race so far. The Kenyan in the middle of the screen, the shorter of the two Kenyans, is Rose Nyangacha. She's 29 years of age. 2:34 is her personal best. She's had a couple of races this year. She was second over 10k in Swansea and was 5 in the Great South Run. So was 5th in that race. So she's had a couple of races. And the other Kenyan is Hellen Cherono, who ran 4 marathons in 2004. But her showing so far this year, she ran the second leg of the Yokohama Ekiden, ran 33:51 for 10k, which is not super quick. In fact, Emma Snowsill ran 33 minutes for 10k yesterday in the triathlon, which is amazing. And I reckon you added 30 seconds to that with her celebrations in the finishing straight. So
that is one of the most amazing finishes I've ever seen in a race in my life, might I say.
Well, Cherono's a 2:31 athlete. So there's plenty of quality there. Kerryn McCann's got the fastest time in the field, 2:25.59.
And Liz Yelling there, the tall girl, also very prominent, looking like she's keen to get it rolling a little bit. Has a lifetime personal best of just over 2:30 or just under 2:31, and she's probably the other athlete just to keep an eye on. She's prominent, she stands out, and she's got obviously good cross country and family background, so I'd expect her to be pretty prominent and may take the race up, I think, a bit as well.
The other tall athlete in the field is from Wales, Tracey Morris. She's just behind Hellen Cherono, the Kenyan, on the left-hand side of the screen, competing for Wales, 38 years of age. And she made a massive improvement in 2004. She sliced a serious amount off her personal best, went down to 2:33 in the London Marathon that got her into the Athens Olympic team, but she has had an Achilles operation in March 2005, so that has been a bit of a setback.
2:38-year-olds in the field, so it shows that marathons, they tend to mature a little bit later than in other events, but also they can have long careers. Age is no problem. We've just seen in Commonwealth Games with Heather Turlin, so that it tends to make you a bit experienced. And in recent times, Athens, I think all the men's marathon runners are all over 30, the place getters, so it's become an event, certainly at championships for some reason, where a bit of age and probably to be in your 30s tends to be a good predictor for the medalists in championships. So they're good form lines for Tracey Morris.
If that's the case, the 45-year-old aviation fuel installer from St Helena, Errol Duncan, he'll be pleased to hear that if he's sitting in the call room listening to the Channel 9's broadcast monitor at 45 years of age in the men's race. He's getting up there with you, just moving into some of your best work at older in life.
That's right. It's all just been a warm-up for me to date. I've got a couple of years to get into the real deal.
So as they go along, Melbourne University on the left-hand side and Melbourne Cemetery on the right-hand side of the runners, shaded area of the course. There's a little bit of sun on them. That's the main opponent of the marathon runner, the direct sunlight. The temperature sometimes, even the heat, obviously you'd prefer it nice and cool like it is today, but that direct sun makes it feel a lot hotter, particularly in Melbourne, where the sun does beat down pretty strongly.
And you can actually see a bit of shade there, so there's a little bit of sun peeking out, but it tends to, this is a beautiful section of the course, and it's nice. Around Melbourne Uni, it's actually a turn where you're not making a U-turn, you're just going around a bend, which the athletes like. Nothing sharp, a nice curve to go around, and then they actually go on a little bit of a downhill stretch down past Melbourne Uni. Beautiful shade, lovely boulevard, Royal Parade.
Melbourne Cemetery, Burke and Wills, Walter Lindrum, Sir Robert Menzies, John Gorton and James Scullin, 3 Prime Ministers all buried there. And there's even a memorial to Elvis Presley.
In there. No Phidippides, though, in there?
Not Phidippides, no. I think he's buried in Marathon, where he started that famous journey in 480 BC, I think it was, the Battle of Marathon. And he ran with the message that won the battle and then proceeded to collapse and die, unfortunately. But he was the man who started it all. And of course, the 41.95 kilometre journey began from the House of Windsor to London.
And wouldn't he be shaking in his boots thinking that there's women out there that would absolutely smash his time?
So time to take a break. Early stages in the women's marathon. Welcome back to the women's marathon. We're approaching the 10-kilometre mark. And big group of runners still in this lead pack. Liz Yelling from England, the tall athlete in the centre of the screen. The Tanzanians have been present up the front for most of the race so far. Dime and Major. Kenyans on the left-hand side of the screen. Rose Nyangacha and Hellen Cherono. And the three Australians are all there. Kerryn McCann in the sunglasses on the right-hand side with Kate Smyth and Shelley just behind them. Well, nothing to be concerned about this early in the race. You wouldn't expect that there would be, but some days, if you're not on, you're not on, and you can see signs of distress. They have been running for half an hour, which would be enough to put most of us on the side of the curb, but for these girls, they're moving pretty smoothly.
Oh, you would get an indication, and obviously it'll settle into a race between the competitive girls. There'll be some girls who would be struggling at this early stage, and sometimes a couple of rolling hills will just make sure that it gets down to the athletes who are going to be prominent for most of the event. So they're still spread across the road. You know, we're coming up to 10K. It's a pretty big pack, so looks like it's still pretty casual. I'll be interested to see if they've picked it up in this second 5K. My feeling is that it's slightly quicker, so we'll see. 3 Scots in the field. We've got 3 Australians and 3 Scots, 2 Canadians, 2 English women, 2 Kenyans and 2 New Zealanders. We haven't seen much of the New Zealanders so far. 12.78 from Scotland there is Hayley Haining. Men's marathon not too far away. 14 minutes to the start of the men's marathon. You'll see all the action here on Nine's Wide World of Sports as the athletes of the Commonwealth charge through the streets of Melbourne. Kerryn, vastly experienced, Steve, and it's so important in a race like this when you look at her career. 10th in the Commonwealth Games in 1994. She's run 2 World Championships, 3 London Marathons, 3 Olympic Games, including that massive race in Sydney where she finished 11th. And in a lot of sports you'd say, well, you know, 11th in the Olympics, what's going on with that? But it was an amazing race. You finished 10th and then said Steve Monaghetti over and out. Those famous words which didn't ring true, I must say, because you've kept on running ever since. But the experience does help in a race like this. Oh, they'd all be looking at Kerryn. If Kerryn was to make a move, you can guarantee this pack would get down to about 5 in a very short space of time. So you're seeing here they'll be just happy to roll along. She's been prominent. I must admit, I'm slightly surprised that I know she likes to run not so much in a pack. She likes to just be able to let her flow and her style and rhythm just take out. And so she doesn't hide in a pack comfortably. So she'll often be on the edges, on the peripheral. But I'm surprised that, you know, she says that she's obviously rolling along comfortably, but I thought she might just sit, you know, a step or 2 back just to give herself a bit of respite in the early stages of the race.
When you go in as the favourite, as you did on a couple of occasions, you know, Douglas Makahuri was one of the world's great marathoners, that battle you had with him in Auckland in 1990. But in 94, certainly the red-hot favourite. Do you feel the pressure? Do you feel like you're running with all eyes on you in the race?
Oh, you do, but I kind of like that, and Kerryn will, because she can completely control the race. So people will be conscious of what she's doing and where she is, and psychologically that's a real advantage in the crucial parts of the race. So for her, that'll make her more relaxed in this event for sure. And Commonwealth Games, historically, the favourites have won. So you know, you've got a pretty good indication that in this instance, she's most likely to win. We're not calling it early, but it's a very good psychological advantage to have for her to have that over the other girls.
Sarah Major from Tanzania just going out to a lead of 5 or 6 metres, but quickly dragged back in. You'd have to be watchful, Mona, of the African runners. Whenever they go out to the front, I think the leading chances will reel them in pretty quickly in these early stages. Sometimes they can sneak away and build up a big lead, which you just want to be respectful of.
Not at all. Now, I'm saying it happens in the first 10K.
Let them go.
Let them go, because seriously, they always come back, and we would even, no matter who it is, to be making a break at this early stage, most of the time the pack will just let them go. So and it's happening here. They're not really going yet, but you wouldn't be concerned about these little moves.
That was Deke's tactic in 1982.
That's
Kanga and Shahanga, let them go.
and
then get worried rapidly as the race progresses and you haven't reeled them back in.
It was good for TV. It was good for the Australian public. It's a good close-up picture there of Kate Smyth, who's looking pretty focused, relaxed, not in any distress at all, just looking down at the heels of Kerryn, who should be tracking Kerryn. I'm sure she'd be conscious of just sitting there in the pack, not doing any work. But sometimes, and we're noticing it's cloudy, probably don't need glasses on, but from our point of view, it's a great psychological advantage if people can't see your eyes. I used to wear sunglasses in most of my events, and it just allows you to, because the eyes give away a lot of information about how a person's travelling. So it's like a disguise, and it's become very common now. So I'm not surprised that a number of them are wearing them sunglasses, even though it is dark.
Well, it's transferred to the poker table now. The wearing of sunglasses to disguise what's going on, and Kerryn McCann has got them on as they run through the centre of Melbourne.
Quite a hilly section here. They head down Latrobe Street. If you were to say that there was a hilly section in this course, they're on it now. And to be honest, it's actually quite hilly downhill rather than up. There's a couple of quite steep downhill sections in the next 5 or 10 minutes, and that can be more damaging to your legs than an uphill because of the quads getting very fatigued. So we'll see.
Approaching 10 kilometres in the women's marathon men's race, about 10 minutes away. Let's leave the action from the streets of Melbourne, go to the Melbourne Sports and Aquatic Centre for the action in the pool. Let's join Ray Warren. Ray, women are through 15k. There are the standings, and there's 15 athletes, in fact, in this lead pack. The three Australians, Shelley, Kate Smyth and Kerryn McCann, are all there, along with all the dangers, of course. And they're running at around 2:34 pace at the moment. They've been pretty consistent around the 17:45 mark for 5k split, Steve. So
yeah,
very
pretty
comfortable.
And now they're just about to turn and go into their lap around. So they've come off St Kilda Road. More straight sections, pretty flat now onto Albert Parkway.
In the men's event, it's a little bit different. The two Tanzanians, the Segway and Ramadani, the two favourites, have gone out to a 10-second lead ahead of Malema from South Africa, and the three Australians are 10 seconds behind them. They went through the first 5k in 15:35. So let's go back to Ray at the pool. There were 7 of them. Leatherby, Nikoya from Lesotho, Dan Robinson, who finished 12th at the World Championships last year from England, Westcott and Nankervis. As we go back to the women, where there has been quite a bit of movement in the pack. When we last left, there were 10. They've gone past halfway. They're deep into the race now. They got dropped down to 6, and now there's 4. And Kerryn McCann, Liz Yelling from England, Hellen Cherono from Kenya, and Akunaay from Tanzania, and she's just dropped off the back. And
you've got to say,
Smyth is there also, but she's just off the back of this group. And the other Australian, Shelley, she was one of the first drop when they were in that group of 10, but now they're down to 3 modern, and this is the business part of this race, and Kerryn McCann is looking fantastic.
Yeah, she looks terrific here, and I'm sensing that this is a break where she's saying, okay, we're around 2:33 pace, we're going to kick it in a little bit here, and she's really putting the pressure on here. No surprises that other athletes have dropped off, so we're down to 3, and oh, gee, she looks very, very confident at this stage of the race. So I think that's a good sign.
So what do you do in this situation, Mono, when you're the favourite? You've had everybody watching you. When we've been at the swimming, we've seen that big pack, and they were all running behind Kerryn. She's been in front for quite a way. Probably the last half an hour, for most of it, she has been the leader, although she has had athletes nipping at her heels. But
I'd be just a bit conservative. Yeah, I'd just turn the screws a bit to let them know that you're the boss, and you're making sure you're keeping the pressure on, but you don't want to burn up too much energy to drop them. So you just run strongly, and you let them know that, okay, we're going to keep this pressure on now, and they will just drop. You can see Liz Yelling. She's obviously, head back, starting to look to me like she's struggling with that pace. So I'm expecting she'll drop off in the next 500 metres.
Shades of Paula Radcliffe with that technique there, and Radcliffe looks absolutely shocking from the gun. Runs the world record, 2:15.25. So sometimes the technique is deceiving. We saw with Peter Robertson yesterday, he looked like he was struggling from the start, but the signs aren't good for Liz Yelling, and I will defer to your experience, Mono, having run a lot more marathons than I.
Well, don't listen to me, because I said Paula Radcliffe with a head bump bopping like that, she'll never make a marathon runner. So shows that experience doesn't tell you everything. But this is looking very promising for Kerryn, and Kate Smyth is still running well. We hope that she can just keep an eye on this lead pack. Always good to keep eyesight and eye distance so that you can look up the road, you look forward rather than back.
So she does look composed, Kerryn McCann, running a 22nd marathon, 3 times the top 10 in the big London marathon. 2:25.59, her personal best.
Beautiful part of the course here around past Luna Park. As they then, and this is probably the furthest part out of the course they go, so they still feel like they're heading away from the stadium, which is always difficult mentally. But once they turn around onto the Esplanade, off the Esplanade onto Beaconsfield Parade, then they know they're starting to head for home. So there's no doubt that once you've turned out of here, they'll be sensing that this is race on.
Yelling really starting to struggle and labour at the back of this group.
Now she's actually holding. Despite what I said, she's actually she's still hanging in there. It's very important. Once you lose contact in a marathon, there's no coming back. So she'll be really keen to we say the leash. Once you break the leash, then you don't get back on. And she's certainly still on the leash there. She's fine. So it's really important that she digs here to hold on as long as she can.
25K. McCann leads from Cherono from Kenya, then Yelling. Akunaay from Tanzania is next, and Kortchaguina from Canada. 10 seconds behind Kate Smyth is next. She's in 6th place. 12 seconds back. And we'll just check to see where Shelley is. She's in 9th place. So that is as they go through 25 kilometres. Kerryn McCann just keen to impose herself on this race at this stage. She'd have I know Nick Badeau, who's done a lot of work with Kerryn along with Chris Wardlaw recently, have been out on the course, riding the bikes.
Yes, certainly. Kerryn and Chris Wardlaw flown in from Hong Kong, had a coffee with Kerryn yesterday just to give us some last-minute instructions, and terrific, going well.
So at St Kilda Beach, it's a picturesque sight, the women's marathon. A little under an hour to run. The men, the pace is hotting up. They look like they might break the games record. Stay with us. You're watching the 18th Commonwealth Games on Nine's Wide World of Sports. Deep into the women's marathon, and Liz Yelling, who Steve Monaghetti put the fork in earlier, she said she was done. She's back, Mona. She's looking actually, as they do, you go through a tough spot occasionally. She's not looking quite as bad as she was before. She's certainly not the most picturesque of runners compared to the other two that are there.
Yeah, I always look at their head, and I just see that her head's back, the strained look on the face, even though she's wearing glasses. So she's certainly. I thought she would have dropped off by now. So I've got egg on my face. I'm completely wrong, but I'm predicting that she's even though she's at the front of this group, she's the most likely to drop off next. But Kerryn, again, I think this is good for Kerryn to just relax a bit and let the other girls do a bit of the work, because they've still got far enough to go. She's probably tested them a bit. She's down to 3, so she'd be happy with that.
Hellen Cherono with her, 22 years old, from Kenya, 2:31 personal best. Ran 4 marathons in 2004, 1 in Singapore. She was second there last year, so the sunshine that's beating down on them now won't bother her. Tough marathon in Singapore, very high humidity. And Nyangacha, who was possibly the one that the runners fancied the most from Kenya. Haven't seen much of her. And as for Liz Yelling, 31 years of age, twice English cross-country champion. Husband Martin was twice British duathlon champion. Full-time athlete since December 2001, but teacher of cookery at high school. Kerryn McCann, of course, the mother of 2 who are out in the course. Benton and Josie and husband Greg cheering her on. You
can see the shadows there, so there's a bit of sun, and I ran along here this morning. There was just a little bit of headwind, so this might be a tough part of the course for them.
Long way from the village, Mona. They are going mad back there. They're enjoying your work, but it's not going to be the same village when you return. So the women's marathon continues. It's Akunaay from Tanzania. She's in 4th place at the moment, and in the men's race, it's still a Segway from Tanzania and Nyangacha from Kenya, who lead the way. And this is going to play out as quite an enthralling duel between these three. And McCann just again edging in front. Let's go back to the pool. So still the three competitors leading the women's race. Kerryn McCann from Australia, the defending champion, 38 years of age. Mother of two, second oldest ever to compete in the Commonwealth Games in a women's event. Heather Turland, the oldest, who won the marathon in 1998 in Kuala Lumpur. And the Australians have won the last two women's marathons, with Turland winning in KL and Kerryn winning in Manchester and Lisa Martin winning the first two. So of the five we've had so far, the Australians have won 4 of them, and they're in a good position to do so again here today. She has Liz Yelling from England and Hellen Cherono from Kenya for company. Mono, it's a somewhat trite thing to say, but the marathon doesn't begin until 35k, and they're there.
That's exactly right. They're obviously down to 3, so they'd be happy about that to have broken the pack up, but they'll.
Well, it is starting to get exciting, the women's marathon. They're alongside the tan, the famous stretch of running strip in Melbourne that Kerryn McCann would have pounded around on many times. I know, Steve Monaghetti, your footprints are indelibly cemented into the dirt along there. It's a famous stretch. The Yarra on the right-hand side, the tan on the left-hand side. Governor John Landy's too far away. The city of Melbourne up ahead, and Kerryn McCann and Hellen Cherono running stride for stride.
They won't be looking at the scenery at the moment. This is race on there. And Hellen Cherono certainly looks very relaxed, very comfortable. So Kerryn will be concerned. She'll be looking. You saw her turn to look there. She'll be wondering what Hellen's doing, sitting on a shoulder like that, just trying to get a feel for, okay, they go round the edge of the tan here and go up a little rise. So little rises at this stage of the race. Molehills turn into mountains, so she'll be looking to that rise to try and maybe just extend or get a bit of a feel for how Hellen Cherono's sitting on her shoulder.
Liz Yelling is in 3rd place. Tracey Morris from Wales in 4th. Then Akunaay from Tanzania in 5th. Kortchaguina, who we just saw coming up towards Liz Yelling, going towards the turnaround at the end of Alexandra Avenue. She is in 6th place, and Kate Smyth is in 7th place at the moment. She's 56 seconds outside Yelling, who's in 3rd place, but there's a lot can happen in this final 20 minutes or so of the race. And I know, Steve, you're cheering for Kerryn McCann. You'd love to see her defend her title, but Hellen Cherono hasn't left the shoulder of Kerryn McCann for the last hour.
No, and certainly that will be unnerving Kerryn, I'm sure. At this stage, she'd want to have had a break. But they've still got, they've got little bits of the course that local knowledge can make a difference on. So I'm sure the couple of rises that they've got over these remaining 4 or 5k can be significant. I must say, Hellen Cherono certainly moving up onto the shoulder, pressing Kerryn to let her know that, hey, you're not going to drop me here. It could come down to a finish on the track. So Kerryn won't want that. She'll certainly want to make the race be decided, I think, before William Barrack Bridge. But so this is a very significant part of the course as they turn to go away from the MCG up the tan towards the Governor's Drive. Very significant rise up there that Kerryn will want to make an effort there to get rid of Hellen Cherono, I'm sure.
70 minutes, the personal best for the half marathon for Hellen Cherono, 2:31.28, which is about the time that they're running at the moment. So she's in and about her personal best. Kerryn McCann, 2:25.59. So she's got 6 minutes on personal best, but Cherono's lifetime best came last year, and Kerryn McCann's came in 2000. So we've got one athlete, 22 years of age, on the rise, and Kerryn McCann certainly at the concluding stages of her career. We won't say that this is her last marathon, but if she wins the gold medal, she might decide that 2 Commonwealth Games and race at the Sydney Olympics, that might be enough.
Yeah, here you can see the angle here, that even though it might not look like much of a rise, and everyone will know out the back of the Sydney Myer Music Bowl, but this is a significant hill at this stage of the race, and certainly you can see they'll be working hard. Kerryn still trying to take the initiative and move away. So this is a really crucial part of the race. Certainly, if you want to make a break, I would think this would be your best opportunity. Otherwise, the stadium is in sight. And again, psychologically, you're slightly running away from the stadium, and Kerryn will know exactly what stage of the race is and where they're about to turn.
So Yelling, who's been dogged in third place, she's hanging in there. The gap back to Tracey Morris from Wales is 30 seconds. Then Akunaay is another 45 seconds behind them. So up towards the Shrine of Remembrance along Linlithgow Avenue. Government House Drive just on the left-hand side. Government House. Residence of John Landy for about a week. He's out. He'll be back to his normal residence and his job as an athletics fan. We do have to take a break. The marathoners are getting closer and closer to a packed stadium at the MCG. 2004, 40th in Athens in oppressive conditions. 5th at the World Championships in 2005, 5th in London in 2003. Steve, that's impressive marathon credentials. Take out the Olympic marathon, which was a complete lottery given the toughness of the course and the conditions in Athens, but that's an impressive resume.
Very impressive, and yeah, looks like we wouldn't want to say his home yet, but certainly with that experience, you'd expect he'd be right.
So you're big on making the predictions. Can you predict us a winner in the women's race? Because you've been getting
worried.
You're on the edge of your seat because Hellen Cherono just refuses to disappear.
Yes, and you know, that's obviously, as I say, Kerryn won't know. She would expect in her mind now that she's going to be able to run away from us, so she'll need to make a break shortly.
That's what they've got in store. Do not go away. They're along St Kilda Road, and then they'll come down past Federation Square, and it's an interesting finish, and it's talking about that because I walked from the city into the MCG over the new bridge for the first time, and I could not believe A, how narrow it was, B, the incline in the concluding stages of the marathon as final drinks in the little sauce bottle. It's specially prepared. There is a massive crowd in the MCG. There has to be 65 to 70,000 people, and Kerryn McCann's picture just came up on the screen here, and that caused the crowd to cheer. Mona?
To erupt, and as we know, William Barrack Bridge, you're within, so they've got 2k to go. They're through 40k, so they're in the last 2k. We're up William Barrack Bridge. There we go, the screen. The crowd is just enormous here. Willing our great Australian Kerryn McCann over the line. And I reckon we've got one uphill, one downhill, and then we're on Brunton Avenue and into the stadium. So very significant here. We're gapping it definitely, and Kerryn is really trying to extend it here, putting enormous pressure on here. This is where the experience comes out.
What a crowd as they reach the centre of Melbourne. Look at that. Both sides of the road supporting these athletes. The men have just gone past down the right-hand side, and the women will take the right-hand turn. Gold and silver here. I think we can determine that those positions have been decided. The bronze still up for grabs. Liz Yelling ahead of Morris from Wales.
I just think she's away. I'm not, as I say, I'm early on predictions, but I reckon I'm very confident that this is enough for Kerryn to be feeling like she's got a mental edge.
Come down alongside the Yarra, Federation Square on the left-hand side. So the MCG is in sight now. It's directly in front of them. This massive stadium that has hosted so many famous sporting events. Elaine Mamoon won the men's marathon in 1956. They didn't have a women's marathon. It's the first time they'll celebrate a women's marathon finish inside this magnificent stadium, and wouldn't Kerryn McCann be delighted if it was her that wrote her name into the history books as the first female marathon runner to cross the line, defend a title, Mona, there. The crowd is enormous. She has to, just as Deke did in 1982, get so much support from this crowd as they charge towards the finish.
Yes, and she looks so determined, and she won't be thinking about the glory. She's thinking about the battle that she's got on her hands here and how she can tough this out to make sure it's her gold, not silver.
Well, imagine if we have a sprint finish inside the stadium. They'll do a little over 300 metres once they run down Brunton Avenue and inside the stadium. And McCann, she's got a little smile on her face, or is it a grimace? Cherono goes to the front for the first time. They've probably done 40k. Cherono hasn't been in front for the entire race. McCann, can she hang on?
Come on, Kerryn, this is it.
She's fighting back.
She's away. This is all right.
Well, she's fighting back, and Cherono, maybe that was the last burst from Hellen Cherono from Kenya. They're on the bridge. Have a look at the climb. That's unfair. That is unfair to have to do that at this stage of the race.
This is good for Australia. Come on, Kerryn. There's 2 approaches on this bridge, a little duck, and then they go onto the main section.
Cherono's not done with yet. This is really tough, this climb. We've talked about it at the start of the race. We knew it would be tough, but we didn't realise how tough it would be. It is severe. This will even out once they get up the top. There's not much crowd support there. They'll get it once it opens up at the top here. Side by side they go.
And they're at the level of the MCG. Their eye line is directly to the top stand of the MCG. So they've got the finish line right in their sights. They're right onto the main section of the bridge now. They're over the top, down the other side, onto Brunton Avenue and in.
Well, you have to remember at times like this that pain is temporary, but glory lasts forever. They have to just dig inside themselves and find something that maybe hasn't existed in the past, because they're fighting for the glory of their nation. And Kerryn McCann's fighting to defend her title, and Hellen Cherono, a youngster, is just dropping off the pack again.
Pain is temporary, but it's enormous right now. This is what all the training's about. She's definitely significant break there. Go, Keza.
What a sight, the MCG. There are a lot of people in this stadium that are willing Kerryn McCann home.
And I'm one of them. And we're away now, you'd have to say. This is significant. On the downhill section, I would be thinking that this would be a significant spot. She's got to be away now.
Liz Yelling is in 3rd place from England. Tracey Morris in 4th. Well, Cherono, Mona, she's back. She refuses to go away.
In fact, she takes the lead.
Coming towards the stadium. What a race we've got in store. It's been enthralling for the last 2 hours and 28 minutes. It's going to be very exciting for the next couple, because Cherono from Kenya making her major championship debut. McCann fights back, and the crowd in the stadium are with her. She'd be able to hear that roar. They're on Brunton Avenue. They'll take the left-hand turn to the stadium, and they'll run home for the gold. Mona, you've been making predictions. Give me another one, please.
I'm only making one. It's Kerryn McCann. She's been through this so many times before. She knows once she turns that they're in through the tunnel and onto the track. Experience tells you that this is going to be a magnificent finish. We're in for a sprint finish down the straight.
Well, Kerryn McCann was 2nd in the Australian 10,000 title and ran a good 3K last week. She'll rely on that speed here. She just has to have a bit of a breather, I reckon, and build off the crowd. She's ignored my advice wisely. Up the little rise. What a roar! .250 to go in the marathon. Head to head. Inside the final lap. McCann's in front. Cherono fights back. What a finish. Edging clear, the defending champion, 38 years of age. Son Benson, daughter Josie, husband Greg, cheering her out in the course. I hope they've got him here to experience this, because this is something to savour, something to remember for the rest of life, for everybody here on their feet, applauding Kerryn McCann. Hellen Cherono, what a battle. But Kerryn McCann defends her title and goes back-to-back and wins the gold. Cherono in 2nd. She celebrates as well, as she should. What a race. What a finish. Kerryn McCann defends her title.
There is a God. Kerryn gets home. What a magnificent story. What a great example. Fantastic person. A terrific Australian. I'm proud to be in the stadium on my feet to see such a finish. Keza, we'll take our hat off to you.
2:30.53 for the statisticians. That was the official time. We'll forget about that pretty quickly, because it was the quality of the battle between two great athletes, and McCann is just overwhelmed. And, well, after that battle, why wouldn't you be? Liz Yelling in the stadium. She's going to get the bronze medal. She ran with them. She was alongside them for the first 30 metres. Mona, the marathon, it brings so much to the table, and that fight between those two athletes over the final 2 kilometres of the race just epitomises what it's like to compete for your country in a major title.
And look at that emotion. You've got to hold that in. You can't let that emotion come out till you cross the finish line, and then it all releases. A great run by Liz Yelling. Terrific. She's held on extremely well. That's a great result for her.
A couple of minutes outside her personal best on this tight course. She celebrates with the bronze. Liz Yelling from England. So the medalists are confirmed. Kerryn McCann, just as Lisa Martin did, defends her title. And the Australian record in the women's marathon is impressive indeed. Of the 6 titles, Australians have won 5. Go Aussie! Here's the signs in the crowd. And Steve, we've talked about the great moments in this stadium, and what a moment for Kerryn McCann as she looks up and sees this crowd, and they're cheering for her, and they've lifted her to the line.
She runs over. I'm sure Greg and the kids will be there. Chris Wardlaw in the crowd, proud. Look at that. What a fantastic moment for her, 38 years of age, to defend your title. Very, very difficult in Commonwealth Games, and she's done it in the nicest possible way. One of the hardest victories she'll ever have won, but I'm sure one of the happiest. Most satisfying.
Tracey Morris from Wales, you're finished, Tracey. No need to keep running. It's a long journey. You don't need to do any more. She's in 4th place. 2 seconds was the difference, Steve. 2 seconds over 41.95 kilometres.
And there's her husband, Greg.
Team McCann,
Benton.
son Benton, and daughter Josie. And, well, wouldn't they be excited?
And so they should be. What a fantastic moment. I'm almost crying. Mate, excuse me if I'm tearing up. That's just what a lovely. She's such a lovely person. You could not meet a nicer Australian. She's a fantastic person, and such support from her family. Nicole, they'll all be excited up there. Her sister, Jenny. There's Benny out on the track.
Well, won't he have a story to tell and show and tell on Monday morning? My mum won the Commonwealth Games, and I got to run on the MCG with her.
Don't run. Take it all in. Don't be in a hurry.
It finishes too quickly, doesn't it? The men's race still continues. We can't forget them as the rest of the competitors who are battling against themselves at the moment, their personal best, and certainly in the Australian marathon scene, you never step off the course, Mona. It's something that the Australian marathon community pride themselves on. You finish, or you take your singlet off.
Or if you do, you take the singlet off.
Not sure if the girls will do that, but the men certainly.
They know the rules.
Eloise Wellings will run in the 5,000, just there celebrating New South Wales running community. They'll be absolutely cheering in their lounge rooms or here in the MCG. 2 seconds, Steve, was the
official margin. Doesn't matter, mate. Could be 2 hours. It's gold to silver. She'll cherish that. She'll look back. That's a great way to finish, and shows her all-around ability. She ran 9:04 on the track for 3K in Wollongong last week. So he's a long way from Wollongong to the Commonwealth champion defending her title, but that was insignificant. That could be the mental thing that she thought, hey, I'm quick, I'm in good shape. She's held the Australian 5K record. She always must have had a bit of confidence that she could kick home at the finish.
What a turnaround she's had after finishing 31st in Athens. She was 10th in New York, 2:32. Didn't finish in Los Angeles. Had a good run in San Diego in the middle of last year, 2:32, and then had a shocker in Tokyo. They ran a good time, but a slower time, a position that she was a bit disappointed with. But
she told me not to mention that one, so I'm under instructions not to mention that.
But to come back like this and prepare yourself for this title and leave the family, go up to Falls Creek, and just prepare single-mindedly for this race. Well, I'm sure that the family won't mind for a second that they've missed Mum while she's been preparing for this race. Supporters everywhere.
There they are. It's a family. She's crying now, and so she should. The advantage of a hometown crowd. You can celebrate it with your friends, family, and everyone that's in the stadium with you.
Well, she's got 65,000 mates right now. Well, you're supposed to be exhausted in the marathon. That adrenaline, I think tonight she'll have a good sleep. And in a couple of hours' time, she'll be sore. But she'll have that medal to just to remind herself of.
Never hurts when you win, Dave, I'll tell you that. I think she's making a run for the boxing team. She's punching the air. She's right down in front of us now. Here's Kate Smyth, has entered the stadium. Looked around, took it all in. She's battling, look at the back lean. She's really fighting to just finish this last 250 metres. Brave effort, Kate Smyth. Come on, Kate, keep on running.
She's in 7th place. Akunaay from Tanzania was in 5th. Kortchaguina from Canada in 6th place.
She's doing it tough. That's what the marathon, it's a very humbling experience running a marathon, but she's looking around, she's enjoying the crowd, she's using the crowd to wheel her on. She's battling, you can tell she's got absolutely nothing left, completely spent. Almost walked down to a walk. She's just getting every last inch of energy out of her body. She's glad she's not in the final of the 100 sprint. She's at 80 to go. Look at the arms pumping because her legs are gone. She's got the lean back. Goodness gracious. Come on, Kate.
Well, she's in a bit of trouble here.
She's in a lot of
so
trouble. Come
the
on,
focus
Kate.
on the line, the crowd left to try and bring her home.
She's right. She's there. Oh, boy.
What a battle.
Oh.
And Kate Smyth crosses the line in 7th place. Let's go to Tony Jones, who's with the winner, the defending champion. She's done it, Kerryn McCann.
Well, Kerryn, what can I say that this stadium hasn't already said, except bloody well done.
I need to pinch myself because that's everything that I dreamt of, and I just cannot believe that I've finally done it, and I just can't believe it.
Kerryn, when you were coming over the footbridge and along Brunton Avenue, when did you first start hearing the roar from this stadium?
Oh, I heard the roar as we come through the tunnel there, but there was a roar just about the whole way around the course, and if the people weren't out there, I don't think I've got a gold medal today.
I mean,
in Melbourne.
Well, that's it. Manchester was fantastic, but to do it at home, does it get any better?
This is definitely the peak of my career, and I can't ever imagine doing anything better than this. I'm almost at the end of my career, and I really wanted to finish on a high, and I've done it today.
And to have your family, including this little fella, Benton?
Yeah, it just means the world to me to have my family here, and I've got so many people to thank. My training partner, Murray Smyth, and Barry Keema in the crowd, and my parents, my mum. I wouldn't be here without my mum. She does so much for me, and my dad, Greg's mum, Colleen, and Greg's over there as well, my husband and my kids. They mean the world to me. And I really need to thank my coach, Chris Wardlaw, who's out on the course somewhere, and also my manager, Nick Bitto. There's a team here, and without their help, I wouldn't be here today. So,
What'd your mum and dad say to you for encouragement?
I don't think they could speak either. They cried and I cried, and Mum, she was really good. She said, I don't care what you do, I'm still proud of you. But I just knew having them here, I felt a bit of pressure on myself, and I was so nervous, and I just wanted to win for everybody, not only myself. So I've done it.
And what about this little fella, Benton? Are you proud of your mum?
Yes.
Yeah, she's pretty special, isn't she? And I don't think there'd be too many young fellas at school who've got a mum who've got a Commonwealth Games gold medal, but your mum's got 2. What were you thinking, and your dad and your sister, when your mum came through the tunnel and all the crowd started cheering?
I don't know. We did think she should still win.
Yeah? And do you help her train?
Yeah, sometimes.
Do you? Do you get out of bed early and go for a little run with her?
Not usually.
And would you like to see your mum run again?
Yes.
Oh, well, I think that means you can't retire yet.
He wants me to do another race overseas in America so he can go to Disneyland, so I might have to stick it out for one more marathon.
Kerryn, on behalf of everyone in Australia, we have been united by your moment. Fantastic, go and enjoy it.
Oh, I just can't believe I've done it, and thank you to the crowd, and thank you to Australia for supporting me, and this is just the most special moment for me and for everybody here today.
Fantastic. All right, well done.
Thanks.
Well done, Tony. Lauren Shelley crossing the line in 7th place. What a moment it was. Kerryn McCann taking out the women's marathon, defending her title. The men continue. Will it be a finish like that? We can only hope so. Back with more from the...